Hello everyone, we are going to be getting to this video from Underskin that has been requested to me in my algorithm for a while now, and I'm caving, and I'm getting into it. It looks really interesting. This channel do a lot of these videos like the rise and fall, or if you're Rihanna, the rise and rise of Rihanna. But this one is of Jeffree Star Cosmetics, which is a topic I find really interesting because I think I'm super fascinated by brands and their success or their low points or something, and kind of just seeing how everything plans out. I think it's really interesting. So I'm excited for this video, so subscribe and thumbs up. If you want to go watch the video, I'm going to watch this for various commentary purposes, but it's on Underskin YouTube channel. Here we go!
Jeffree Star Cosmetics is undoubtedly one of, if not the, most successful influencer brands ever, turning his personal social media following into a customer base for which Jeffree Star the person grew the colossal-sized Jeffree Star Cosmetics. But the company has had a few rough years here and there, and though the company is still profitable, it's raised concerns that it won't always be. By the time Jeffree Star Cosmetics was born in 2014, Jeffree had already amassed a huge following for his...
Girl, he has lived. He has lived. Oh my god. Like, the fact that he's like a grown person here, and then had multiple eras from this before he got to YouTube, and now he's a farmer. That man has lived.
His looks and music all the way back in the dawn of social media, before having a social media following was a thing. In the early days of the internet, minorities, especially queer folk, were beginning to find people that were like themselves, naturally gravitating towards each other. This could account for some early awareness in his content, and itself can be considered a marketing plan if harnessed correctly, as Seth Godin explains in this book, Tribes. But Jeffree's plan for fame, and subsequently the same plan that the company would go on to use for promotion, didn't quite end there. Jeffree Star says in this interview that he was on several sites around the late 90s, early 2000s, where he would drum up attention for being controversial by using words that weren't necessarily appropriate.
How many YouTubers have we heard say that? You know, it was just what was happening at the time. I just wanted to get an attention, so I used to say the worst things and record them. How many people have we heard say that?
Some would say offensive to use in America in those days. Specifically, this got Jeffree Star known for being controversial.
Girl, this is a jump
very
scare.
early on in his career, which we know now is a real formula for success as long as you can recover after the controversy dies down. Controversy brings attention, attention brings notoriety, and notoriety brings money. Jeffree understood this about fame back in those days and implemented it online.
I'm watching these videos of him on the street shouting at people, and I can literally, like, hear the original video.
One of the first, if not the first, to implement this marketing system on social media, known as shock marketing. Shock marketing dates all the way back
to
the
shock marketing, like, controversy is good if you're able to recover after the controversy, is such an interesting point. I've never heard it being phrased like that. Oh my god, hi.
Early 1900s, being in regular rotation since then for its incredibly cost-efficient and sometimes free way to drum up a lot of attention, especially through word of mouth, as the public tend to be more likely to discuss things with others that are shocking or divisive to them, including topics ranging from Beyoncé's surprise album drop all the way to the recent Balenciaga scandal. Furthermore, modernly, we know that using shock marketing to be divisive specifically has the potential to build a community of very die-hard followers because they have chosen to stand by you when controversy happens.
Whoa, this video is phrased so good. Like, saying that the audience are so, like, crazy because they're choosing to be a part of something that a lot of people don't agree with. Like, I've never heard things being phrased like this before. This video is good.
Studies show that regardless of whether it is planned or unplanned, big or small, controversy tests a celebrity's or brand's followers' faith, pulling into question the consumer's own personal beliefs, which are much harder to change once a relationship has been formed. A really great example of this is found in this study in a socio-psychological bulletin, where they found that
this video is
77%
clever.
of Jake Paul's audience was still loyal to him after the Suicide Forest scandal. And it's very likely that because they've now had to stand by him through this colossal scandal, they've grown closer to him parasocially.
Whoa! I've literally never heard it being phrased like that, where, like, YouTubers get cancelled so that the audience they have are, like, diehards supporting them. That makes so much sense. Whoa.
So in a nutshell, Jeffree could gain an initial audience that saw themselves through him for being queer, visibly non-binary, a boy that wore makeup, and for being alternative in general. This audience he was then able to transform into a very loyal one because he was divisive and shocking. This audience grew with him through the early years of the internet, from facethejury.com to his music career, then onto MySpace.
Beauty killer. Such a timeless hit.
Before he invested his life savings into starting Jeffree Star Cosmetics. Because he had amassed a social media following and a truly enviable fan base that through merch sales had proved to be monetizable, he was able to leverage this to drum up interest in his followers for him to have his own makeup.
Oh my god, it's so weird to see this now. Like, Jeffree Star Cosmetics coming early 2014, like it wasn't always a company.
Line.
I look at it as one of the first in the beauty space.
When in 2013, Star would tease the launch of Jeffree Star Cosmetics.
Girl, this lipstick does not look appealing.
A full year before their official launch, he was announcing this to an already baited audience that was ready and willing to ensure the product, as long as it was good, would be a hit.
I mean, and it was so good because he created these videos approving or not approving makeup, so then everyone was going to trust whatever he released because he's the one who approves or denies, so why would he release something he doesn't, want to approve? So then he got so many sales based on that.
They launched on November 28, 2014, with 3 velour liquid lipsticks that cost $18 each, available on the Jeffree Star Cosmetics website.
$18 for lipstick, especially back in 2014, was expensive.
The product was extremely well branded, even if it was on a much lower budget than one would expect of the brand today. The products and packaging featured a marginally softer kind of hot pink than the vibrant hot pink that Jeffree personally was already known for in his hair, which helped the brand stay on the Jeffree Star brand while differentiating it to be its own separate company. The colour was enhanced by a new Jeffree Star Cosmetics logo, which was 2 mirrored J's inside a star that adorned the liquid lipstick.
The logo is good.
We know now that this was not the full story of the logo, but that being said, the full story was not quite yet made public, so I'm going to stick a pin in it for this brewing controversy.
That's the Kat Von D thing, right? God, I need to dive into that because I forget what happened there.
For promotion, he obviously shared the launch on his socials at the time, like this post on Facebook, and produced an advert which would go on YouTube. YouTube was a platform Jeffree was not yet using largely for promotion. This is well before Jeffree would really join YouTube at all, actually. In fact, this would be the first makeup-focused video ever posted to his YouTube page, which previously was used only for his music promotion and a few now-deleted personal blogs. If you take a look at the 4 P's of marketing, the marketing mix that I know you all enjoyed from my
Oh my god, marketing is so stressful.
He had a good mid-tier price point, infamously good quality.
Mid-tier? Is $18 for a lipstick back in 2014 mid-tier? I would say that's expensive.
Product that was also vegan, which was still a big differentiator for makeup brands at the time. The place of purchase was good for his audience, who knew him mostly for being online, and his promotion too was amazing considering his low budget and the fact that he was a real celebrity by this point already, and not too many celebrities had their own makeup lines, so it wasn't yet an oversaturated market, and of course he would continue to do promotion after the launch too.
Lipsticks are $60.
It was very likely that this brand was going to succeed, which of course it did. The initial 3-color launch was a huge success. One of the shades, Red Rum, sold out in exactly a month on December 28th, and the brand was so well received that it already had a great buzz of expansion to the Jeffree Star Cosmetics core product offering. This is something that I believe Jeffree was banking on, because despite him claiming to have only $3,000 to his name at the time, which, not to be too conspiratory, he does say that that was after investments, and maybe he means that he had $3,000 after he invested in his company, I don't know. Further products, namely...
I mean, there's so much about his upcoming story that conflicts itself. He's told so many different stories so many different times that people don't know what to believe in him. I mean, he's lied about everything.
A further 15 shades and 2 new products, one of which was a lip scrub, the other, I think, a moisturizer that I don't think ever made to retail, would be launched very shortly after.
Oh my god, he was about to release moisturizer back in 2014, but he only did, like, last year. That's... wow.
Within only a few months of the initial launch. Plus, they were even announced the day before the launch of the initial 3 colors on November 27th, 2018, so would directly be capitalizing on the initial buzz of the first 3-piece launch in a way that extends the product lifecycle and promotes an extra quantity of social media buzz around the collection. So it's in my opinion that this was a planned, staggered launch where the further 15 shades and 2 products were pre-planned and possibly formulated, but only put into production after the initial 3 shades proved to be profitable/successful.
I mean, that
He
makes
then
sense.
could have used the profits to obviously pay the remaining fees on the previous production and then bankroll the next 15's manufacturing slowly through the year with a big push for the holiday 2015 collection. As a strategy, it's pretty standard.
I remember, like, being in school and, like, a lot of my friends at the time's friend groups, so, like, a bunch of girls, literally were buying his makeup back in 2016, and I had no real idea of who Jeffree Star was. My first initial remembrance of Jeffree Star was one of my friend's friend, Molly, buying Jeffree Star cosmetics back in 2014, and my friend Alexandra, who unfortunately is no longer with us, but I remember her back in like 2015 talking about how amazing Jeffree Star cosmetics was because she did a lot of makeup. And she was like, it's so good, but like I have to like import it from America and blah 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 blah. So I remember hearing about it through that, and then whenever I pieced together that Jeffree Star was Jeffree Star Cosmetics, whenever I learned who the fuck Jeffree Star was, it was quite shocking. Like, he had a devoted fan base who didn't even watch his videos, because my friends didn't watch his videos.
But really fantastic. 1, because it's both a smaller upfront cost that can fund the further production costs. 2, because it can be a good plan for extra hype surrounding the brand. And 3, because it fostered this idea of collecting them all, which as you can see from this video is still with the brand
Jesus
today.
Christ.
Basically, even if this was born out of necessity for lack
Jesus
of capital
Christ,
funds,
this fan's bedroom, or wherever this room is, looks like fucking stock at Sephora. Holy fuck.
this pre-planning as a release strategy was incredibly clever, and throughout the year would have made him a lot of incrementally large sums of money. Money that he would then immediately reinvest into the business. But he didn't stop with the planning there. He continued to promote himself as a celebrity, a musician, and as a makeup artist through the Extreme Beauty Tour, which took place all across America, which, being that he and his brand share a name, would in turn promote the cosmetics brand that was growing really fast already, having announced upcoming stick lipstick.
I think there was a pro and con to Jeffree being so involved in the brand. Like, it being Jeffree Star Cosmetics and you knowing that it's Jeffree's brand at the start was so good because he got to bring over his fans and that gave it the push, and then the products kind of spoke for itself. However, it was a negative in years to come because the reason the brand is not as successful now is because people associate it with Jeffree Star. So it's a double-edged sword. I don't know what to tell you.
Just before their announcement that they were now stocked by Beautylish.com. But despite how fast the growth
Beautylish,
seemed
what is
at the
that?
time, it was really only the beginning as Jeffree finally got his teeth sunk into YouTube. It's hard to express to what degree, but there was a real demand for Jeffree Star content on YouTube, specifically videos on his products. Like this video from Shan XO, which would easily reach views of 1 million plus.
Oh my god.
This video, for example, has 3 million views. So when
That
Jeffree
promotion
did get onto
is
the platform
crazy.
with influencer-y style content 9 days later, it was undoubted that he would be well received. Jeffree really hit hard onto YouTube, earning over 1 million views on the first video alone, exploding awareness of the brand even outside of people who were interested in makeup. This was achieved through a pretty aggressive social media campaign on his channel, which saw them employ several highly popular makeup artists and celebrities to feature on the channel, like No Just Henry, Alyssa Edwards, Laganja Estranja, and Miss Fame, along with utilizing trending topics at the
Famous names. Girl.
time, like the My Boyfriend Does My Makeup tag or drugstore makeup tags. So, with this, he was routinely getting hundreds of thousands of views on his videos, even some into the millions. Thanks, yes, by this marketing scheme of following trends and using celebrity/influencer endorsements, but also by his take no prisoners.
Oh my god, that wig. That wig, mama. Ooh.
Approach to reviews. His
Time, now, place, bin.
incredibly blunt and brutal manner of speaking about products drew in people by the masses, as he became a trustworthy source of information. He had a successful company, he knew the ins and outs of the chemical construction of products, and he had a genuine interest in finding new and good products. Never worried about talking up or down a competitor, he was unswayed by what I'm going to call bribe money, wherein
But also, I think that that was tactical at the same time, because of course he's going to manipulate his opinion to, you know, promote his brand more. So, yeah, if he was honest and then said he loved products, how do you know he didn't love products that he hated, or, you know, vice versa?
influencer could be paid to speak positively about a product
Yeah,
they
it
were
looks
showing off without
wig is
necessarily
crazy.
disclosing that it was paid. So this would become a huge differentiator for Star on YouTube, and likely why he grew to have a very trusting fan base that were
That
willing
for
to
sure.
overlook his scandals of the past.
That for
He
sure.
brought so much value to his content that his knowledge became indispensable. And so from this point onwards, the company, Jeffree Star Cosmetics' success was heavily tied
Oh, this
to the
wig,
success
take it off.
of his YouTube channel.
Hate it.
The company heavily capitalized on this success, all while, much like its founder, capitalizing on Jeffree Star Cosmetics' first set of scandals. Namely, he had a tiff with YouTubers Rocky Roadkill, who gave him a bad product review and had a bad customer experience with the company, which was a story he shared on YouTube, and Makeup by Shayla, who Jeffree alleged that he overheard her saying something mean at an event, which she of course disputed. However, these very much paled in comparison to the major 2016 scandal that was actually probably the biggest scandal
this
in
Kat
the
Von
beauty
D?
community so far at this time.
Kat Von D?
Earlier, I told you that there was a brewing controversy with the logo
Yes, Kat
2
Von D.
full years ago in the timeline in 2014. However, now, in June 2016, it was all come
Something
to a
mean.
head when at-the-time friend Kat Von D made a public denouncement of Jeffree's
This is the most camp thing of all fucking time. This like, she downloaded a photo of Jeffree, went on Google, photoshopped a little fucking... That is so camp. That is so camp.
Star on Instagram.
She was just
promoting
better,
drug use
though.
and using racial slurs. Then a bit later on, made a YouTube video alleging that he did not pay the logo designer that she had recommended to him, EJ Betts. This was
Whose side was everyone on in that? Let me know in the comments down below, because I don't really remember it.
easily the biggest scandal the makeup community had had on the internet so far. People were weighing in on all sides, and at least until Jeffree made his rebuttal, people were not.
Oh, he looked snatched in that response video. He looked probably the best he's ever looked in this response video. Like, this... He looked good. I give 10s where 10s are due.
On his side at all. In fact, he and his company was coming across quite badly. But regardless of how unprofessional this came across, it was a lot of exposure for such a young brand from such an established brand as Kat Von D.
Yeah, she
Ultimately,
kind of just
the
shot herself in the
exposure ended up
foot.
being incredibly valuable to the company, even if it wasn't solidly positive, especially after Jeffree's aforementioned rebuttal, which really moved the needle on who people were blaming the incident on to a more neutral point, proving that once again that as long as you can recover from controversy is an incredibly powerful marketing move, especially considering they didn't let this exposure go unharnessed. They got to producing many new products to meet this increase of demand and began cutting deals to expand their retail reach. In just 2016, they had a booth at DragCon. In fact, they were a sponsor at DragCon.
Oh my god. For such a new company, the amount that they did within their first fucking things was crazy. Was crazy. And I mean, it's not just like starting a random company anyway, because he had such a large following. But like...
They became stocked in the UK by October, released an aforementioned stick lipsticks named Lip Ammunition.
Where
their
were they in
first
the
eyeshadow
UK?
palette, Beauty Killer, was released, their first highlighters were released, and metallic liquid lipsticks, all of which contributed to a 700% growth for the company going into early 2017, when they would release the amazingly successful Androgyny palette, amongst other products. Then they would see exponential
That palette
growth
is so ugly. This palette is so
amongst other products.
ugly. What is the color story? That is a really bad palette. Wow. Anything impressed y'all?
Then they would see exponential growth once again in early 2018 with their biggest release to date, the Blood Sugar palette.
Now this palette, I think it is work. You know what I mean?
This
I think
palette
this one's
alone will go on
pretty.
to sell 100,000 units in 10 to 20 minutes on launch, making 5.2 million USD gross profit in just the first batch. Then, after restocks, would go on to make 20 million US dollars, so the blood sugar palette for many.
But then didn't Shane say that those numbers weren't true, so then that was lies? So, like, a lot of their information about the brand as well, we can't verify if it's factual, including the break-in.
Many years, and many argue is still their magnum opus as a company. It really came to define the brand in the beauty space, and it's still on sale now. With all of this, I do know that I'm skipping a crazy amount of products, including the infamous 2017 Manny MUA collab bundle, but that's because, with all of this success...
Does anyone remember that? The collab that Manny and Jeffree did, and it was very similar to another company, and they got sued, and then they, like, split the money or something? That was one of the first YouTube dramas I was ever watching in the moment.
Slowly but surely, Jeffree's next YouTube-based scandal was bubbling, and it was a big one.
What
Following
happened
an
now?
online feud,
Oh my god, Laura Lee!
Laura Lee, Manny MUA, Gabrielle Zamora, and Nikita Dragon.
Just nightmare blunt rotation.
No, the foundation to what would later be called Dramageddon Part 1 was laid. Jeffree's past racist words were being brought into light, exposing Jeffree for racism. And he was coming across very badly online because of it.
Clearly.
Yet because he had an extremely loyal fan base, it was being more debated than what we would think of now as a cancellation. This is obviously something very difficult to concisely discuss, but there were really a lot of videos of Jeffree around this time using the N-word,
Delilah, thank you so much for subscribing.
As either rats or gorillas, all behavior which was public and on many occasions shared by Jeffree himself, when this was the kind of content that was getting noticed online. And it's no wonder, really, that this was getting traction online, because even on British TV, we had Little Britain, England's most beloved TV show in the same year, which heavily featured racist jokes, multiple examples of blackface and homophobic jokes, all on the BBC. So with the 2018 mindset, this scandal was both founded and expected. But he had the followers from...
God, that is so weird. Like, a racism scandal is, like, expected. We are so desensitized with these people. That is such a crazy sentence.
All the way back then, that were both willing and loyal enough to explain the situation away. However, what I think hurt his reputation more was the evidenced recurrences of this behavior made by many people that he knew jumping on the bandwagon. His friend David Anthony Munoz shared examples of Jeffree using the N-word in a text in an at the time modern context. He also allegedly had a video of Jeffree calling Jackie Aina a gorilla, which personally I could not find to corroborate, so do take that with a grain of salt, but it is brought up a lot, so I did have to mention it in the video. Hunter Moore in 2018 claimed Jeffree attempted oral forced intercourse on him in his book. He was also accused of keeping dirt on celebrities, potentially for revenge porn, and hooking up with child fans. However,
that was a crazy couple seconds. Fucking hell.
The real kicker was a follow-on feud with Jackie Aina, who in an anti-haul video said she wasn't buying Jeffree Star cosmetics anymore because Jeffree hadn't recently apologized for all of these videos that were coming to light again. To which they had a Twitter spat in which he called her a rat, evidencing to the public that he was in fact still using this kind of language. This was the catalyst for him making his now infamous racism video.
Oh my god, where he poses racism. The fucking posed thumbnail.
That what he did was wrong, just for attention, and acknowledges that this is something that he had apologized for before many times in the past. But it wasn't really enough. He actually didn't acknowledge everything and seemed to minimize the gravity of this situation. Of course, he still maintained his core audience and turned some of the people back towards him that had turned away because of it, just because of his magnetic and brutally honest online personality. But he had lost a lot of respect from the community, and it really tarnished his reputation for a long time. Surprisingly though, they did not take a break on social media following this, coming back only 2 days later with a video reviewing KKW products. The video was a huge hit, and
I wonder if they're bringing up, do you remember Kim oh my god, yeah, Kim Kardashian's fans were, like, calling her out and calling Jeffree racist, and she was like, hey guys, like, leave Jeffree alone. Leave him alone. And then, like, the next day, she was like, hey guys, I just want to apologize for defending Jeffree. I didn't know everything, and I take it all back.
We surpassed the racism scandal in terms of the amount of people that were aware of it. It did get 150% of the views, and so things slowly kind of moved on from here, but not wholly for positive reasons. A lot of people were hate watching.
Oh my god, he did the collab with Shane like a week after the racism video. Bro, they were working overtime to fix that fucking online persona.
And those that did come to his defense, like Kim Kardashian herself, were quickly made aware of how angry the public was. So despite how many supporters he still had, he wasn't as widely beloved as he once was, for sure. At least that was until Shane Dawson got
Shane,
involved.
y'all.
Shane Dawson at this point was also at the...
Oh my god, this title. Shane Dawson proves authenticity still exists on YouTube. As some YouTubers, such as Logan Paul, stir up controversy, Shane Dawson manages to make meaningful, wholesome content on his platform. Well, that didn't age well.
Absolute height of his YouTube fame, having started a series on his channel where he would document meeting and helping other YouTubers through their day, like with Trisha Paytas, or through a really difficult point in their lives, like with Tana Mojo and TanaCon. But Shane and Jeffree would go on to hit new heights of fame following their initial 5-part docuseries that explored Jeffree.
Girl, why was that 5 parts? We recently watched that on my channel. Like, I have a series reviewing it. 5 parts that was.
His personal life, and really humanized Jeffree to a wider audience that may have only known about him from this 2017 scandal, which actually, because of this docu-series, would yet again be brought into the light, re-sparking the whole feud for the 3rd time. In the docu-series, Jeffree spoke about his self-harm, his dad unaliving himself, how he built this business organically, and the genuine struggles that came with his life in a way that he truly wasn't able to do on his platforms before. It showed that Jeffree Star was a human, a person, not just a character created so many years ago that was the face of this very large company, the face of this YouTube channel too. The docu-series, which was 100% meant as PR, genuinely made people re-fall in love with him and come to forgive his past racist behaviors once again, despite him obviously...
Once again, can we keep that in mind? Because there was more stuff that they then had to, you know, apologize for.
Minimizing his racism, admitting to and explaining only a few videos of the many that we know to exist. This would in turn move the focus of Dramageddon away from Jeffree and onto the other influencers involved who, one by one, would have to make an apology for their past actions.
Wait, who served the most? I'm gonna be honest. Laura Lee's putting on the performance, right? Gabriel doesn't give a shit. Manny, I'm gonna give the award to Manny. For the I don't give a fuck award goes to Manny because you know that this is a fake cry. This one is too. But you know that this was just a simple ooh, and I respect that. So the I don't give a fuck award goes to Manny MUA. God, these videos.
Words, as Jeffree had just been made to do a year previous. Effectively...
Oh my god, and another one to the mix. No, actually, Nikita Dragon gets the I don't give a fuck award. Look at this. Like, she didn't even want to scrunch up the face. She was like, this is all you're getting. Yeah. The IDGAF award goes to you, Nikita Dragon.
More than the other YouTubers involved, he had fostered a group
she wearing
of
snakeskin too?
die-hard fans over the many years of his fame that were likely and willing to forgive and defend him for his past actions when he would do and say a wide range of things in order to get attention. Whereas the other influencers involved in this just did not have that on the same scale, despite how many of them thought that they did. And so Jeffree came out undoubtedly on top.
Yep.
The impact of this series, with this controversy included, was really big. The success was very obvious, and it was watched by tens of millions of people, bringing a new wave of people to Jeffree Star Cosmetics No less because in the antepenultimate episode, they explicitly discuss and tease a Shane Dawson Jeffree Star collaboration.
I think the thing that freaks me out the most about the entire Jeffree and Shane thing is that obviously the first series was the PR thing, to get Jeffree's, audience, big and strong again, and Shane's audience defending them. I don't know why I'm they-theming Jeffree, actually. They said that they-them doesn't exist, or whatever they said in the other podcasts. My goodness. That podcast pissed me off so much. Oh, I'll not get into it. But anyway, it's crazy to think that, like, they were planning on doing this, a palette together, but, like, obviously they needed a bigger audience, so more customers, so Shane, was like, if I get my audience on board with you, it's, like, crazy. Then we'll get more sales. Like, it was all planned.
Palette complete with docu-series of its own, which had audiences bating breath for the next installment. So while the first series was a success for showing the inner workings of the Jeffree Star Cosmetics operation, like the fulfillment factory and the laboratory, it was really the second season, The Beautiful World of Jeffree Star, that demystified the makeup industry for the masses. The docuseries was a real insight into the inner workings of the beauty industry, which for millions of people would bring an interest
But now whenever Shane says that the numbers weren't real, it basically just confirms that we could have been watching an entire series of just lies of numbers and stuff, which would then defeat the purpose of the fact that that was why it was so interesting.
To both the beauty industry and the beauty community that they never had previously. It had a few critiques for being basically a 7-part advert for their collaborative collection called Conspiracy, and criticisms because Shane really hadn't got the history or evidence of him wearing and enjoying makeup up until this point, so it did.
And then he pretended until he didn't have to pretend anymore, and then he dropped it immediately and was like, peace, I'm out, and then called us all clowns on the way out.
Seemed to some like a cash grab.
Anyone? Some humble
pie? For the
pie?
most part, it was widely successful at making the Jeffree Star cosmetic brand seem very good value for money, and in general, more honest and humanized than their competitors. Effectively, after the docuseries, even those that knew nothing about makeup knew that Jeffree Star Cosmetics was both a genuinely good product and exceptional value for money. This was new heights for Jeffree Star's personal fame and the company's success, with product after product being released to rave reviews.
Yeah, his makeup room right now being turned into the nursery for his baby, by the way.
People were literally collecting his makeup, some of whom didn't even wear makeup at all. These shoppers had it just to support Jeffree, just to consume. The company had even had to swap to...
Oh my god, the consumerism of 2016 to 2018 was 2015 to 2018 was crazy. I'm so glad that I was never really into makeup or that I knew any of these people, because I would have wasted all of my money on the 10 different palettes that my 10 different YouTubers would be releasing over the course of 3 months. I speak to people now who have, makeup drawers filled with makeup that they haven't even touched yet, big palettes and stuff like that. Because it was, how were we all persuaded? And here's, my comparison is, skincare. Oh my god, I was, buying, 10 different, foaming cleansers, and then 10 different seaweed cleansers, and then, 10 different hand creams, because they were different scents, and I would buy... Bath and Body Works, hand sanitizer, and I would have 100 of them because they were all different. What the hell? What the hell? Does anyone have a bunch of makeup palettes or anything left over from that era because they were just over consuming? It's crazy how normalized it was.
This model because it had become necessary to avoid inflated prices on the resale market. All in all, the Conspiracy Collection financially was an incredible hit.
Yep.
The palette sold out at launch, making $30 million in gross profit, bigger even than the Blood Sugar palette by far, selling 1.1 million units by just the next day, November 2nd. And if you're doing them...
Oh my god, so I just watched Shane's first episode of the new series where he talked a bit about the money he made. He said the palette made $30 million. Cost of goods was $20 million, and he got 25% of the... 5%. He gets some 5% of the profit, which was $10 million, so $2.5 million. He also said Andrew, his co-worker, got 25% of his cut, meaning Andrew made $625K. Overall, Jeffree made 7.5 million, Shane made 1.8 million, and Andrew made 625,000. Whoa. That's crazy. I've never seen that breakdown before. I feel like Andrew, if Shane's getting almost 2 million, Andrew needed at least 1 million, because Andrew was the one that came up with the palette. Andrew literally designed the palette. Shane had people there, their job was to, like, design this palette, and then one day Andrew designs the final product on fucking Photoshop. Andrew was the brains, mama.
Matt, on this, you're right to think that it is strange. They said 1.1 million units sold by the next day. Some sources say 30
But
million.
didn't Shane say that 20 million figure wasn't correct?
However, only if you take off the 500,000 units purchased by Morphe does it actually equal 30 million gross profit. So what I'm expecting is they had a right to return agreement where Morphe could return any unsold product, something that would soon come in very handy. As with all of this success, his biggest scandal to date wasn't too far off.
Oh my god, so Murphy? Who the fuck's Murphy? Morphe were able to just, like, send them back things that they didn't sell and get the money? Oh, word.
The catalyst for this would be Dramageddon 2.0.
God, she was so
Tati
snatched.
Westbrook made the video by Sisters that was effectively her calling out James Charles for manipulating straight
I'm pretty sure it was by sister, not by sisters. Me just being nitpicky for no reason.
men and just being really crass in public. But importantly for our video,
And you
Jeffree
did it on my
Star tweeted
birthday dinner,
this
sucking dick and
after the
cock.
video was released, accusing James of being a danger to society and that Tati Westbrook was telling the truth in her video. This, as we know, was at a time when James's subscriber count was plummeting. That
And
was
you did
until,
it on my
and yes, I'm
birthday
skipping a
dinner.
lot, he made his rebuttal video No More Lies. James doesn't really talk much about Jeffree in this video, but he exonerates himself with screenshots to debunk what Tati said. Jeffree then inserts himself again with a video called Never Doing This Again.
Never doing this again, and he did, in fact, do it many more times.
Which he apologizes to James for trying to fuel the fire and for speaking on rumors without having fact or evidence.
Oh my goodness.
In my opinion, this was probably just for him to keep his name in people's mouths, a way for him to keep at the forefront of the media, and it kind of worked. Not necessarily in a positive or negative way, but it did work. At least until Tati Westbrook then released her second video on the subject, in which she accused that Jeffree Star and Shane Dawson had manipulated her into making the first video by Sisters in an attempt to ruin James Charles's career.
Yes.
It was directly because of all this drama that Jeffree's racist words and actions once again came back into light.
And if you don't address everything properly, things are going to continue to come up and up and up and up and up, which is why people like Jeffree always go through these cycles of, like, cancellations every 2 years. I mean, Shane addresses it himself. If you're not going to properly acknowledge things, they're going to keep coming up because people cannot reference back to one point where they believe you.
And
you did it at my birthday
Shane
dinner.
and Jeffree, and was easily the biggest hit to their commerciality.
Yeah.
Their biggest stockist, Morphe, dropped Jeffree Star Cosmetics from their brands, and the situation got so bad that the planned follow-up to the conspiracy palette was scrapped altogether. Undoubtedly, this would have been at great expense to the company, as from what we saw in the most recent docuseries, the research and development stage was all but completed, so they'd spent a good amount of production cost, but had no way of getting return on investment.
The palette, what was it called again? Like Death or something like that? What was it called? Can anyone remember what their palette was called? It was one of the, I'm not even being mean, one of the ugliest palettes I've ever seen. Do you remember I posted the picture of it and it was like the ugliest color? Doomsday, the Doomsday palette. I really need to pull it up because it was like shockingly... Doomsday palette. Shockingly ugly. Like, really bad. Oh my god, my tweet comes up first. I'm such a hateful little bitch. Girl. This is the ugliest fucking palette I've ever seen in my entire life. Thank God they didn't release. What is the color story? Anyway.
Investment.
So this was not a loss. Not being released, by the way.
Both Jeffree Star and Morphe began to financially sink to different degrees at this time, but unlike Morphe, Jeffree Star Cosmetics did actually manage to survive. If you do want more information on how Morphe did not survive though, I do have a video and I'll link it here and at the end. So, between 2019 and 2023, despite the brand not releasing sales information, it was very clear that sales at Jeffree Star Cosmetics heavily fell. Their social media searches fell to the tune of 72%.
Wow.
It was discovered in TJ Maxx, and clearly this was a really difficult time for the company. Though they were still probably, maybe, profitable, they simply were not seeing the colossal success that they once did. People simply were not as fascinated by Jeffree as they once had been.
Or, I think we're also living in a... well, I mean, the Jeffree thing is a very valid point. But one thing I will say is I think we all live in an era now where I think for most people above a certain age, if you like a product, you have that product and you're going to use that product. Like, for me, nowadays, I have, like, a moisturizer that I really like. And I will use that to death. It's like a cocoa oil. I use it on my face and my arms. And I love it. And I'm going to use that one bottle until it's gone. I literally just finished a bottle and I got a new one today. With lip balms as well. Like, I like having a lip balm and finishing it. Like, I feel like we live in an era where we don't need this overconsumption anymore. And I think this is like the clean girl aesthetic, you know, that people talk about, where it's like you like your things and you don't want to be like too crowded with things. I used to love having so much because I thought that having so much looked like, oh, I have more, or I feel that I have more. But whenever I have less and it's things that I actually enjoy, I appreciate it. And I think people are like this with makeup. Why are you going to continue spending $80 on a palette every 6 months if you're not even finished your one from 2 years ago? It doesn't make sense. Let's grow up.
As a person, though, they still raked in millions of views per video and gained
And then
interest
they gave
as they
up.
were potentially robbed, moved to a yak ranch, and a smallish scandal
Potentially robbed.
for releasing
Shady.
a palette named Cremated during a global pandemic, had a few slightly larger scandals for an old website holder named lipsticknazi.com, which was rebooted to another one of his websites back in 2004, an older picture of him next to a Confederate flag 2 caused scandal, and he also broke up with long-term partner Nate. But from how Jeffree talks in
Wow, that was just a triple kill.
Shane video, it can be inferred that all of these controversies were just not translating into sales as they once did, regardless of if he
Oh my god, so circling back to that point, it's controversy is good if you can recover from
was in
it.
control of them, like the Cremated palette, or not in
Just
control of
so
them, such as with the
cute.
website resurfacing. So it seems a plan was put into effect to try to gain notoriety once more, but this time in a more positive manner. Damage control, really.
Oh.
He began slowly on TikTok, amassing a decent following, but not really going full force onto the platform just yet, until it was clear that he could see some success. Almost reminiscent of how he initially launched his lipsticks all the way back in 2014. To go along with this, they launched Jeffree Star Skin, which is technically a different company.
The Jeffree Star Skin, I literally have Jeffree Star Skin because I told you, if you remember, whenever it came out, I ordered it because I was like, I'm not going to talk shit about it if I haven't tried it. There were some products, the facial cleanser was not, wait. The moisturizer was alright. The facial spray was really heavily scented. The under eye cream did nothing. The toner was so drying, but it was probably my favorite product of it all. And the facial cleanser was awful. You needed so much product to feel like you were actually cleaning your fucking skin. What else? The lip balm I liked, but it's just really fucking oily. Like really oily. I just never hear anyone talk about Jeffree Star Skin anymore. Like, I literally, hold on, I think I have a bottle. So I bought that. Whoa, my god. My chair turned around a lot quicker before I sat down. These, like, I bought when the brand was released. And I literally don't use them because they're not really my favorite. So this is his Jeffree Star facial toner. I bought this a very long time ago. It has to be like a year ago I bought this. Look how little of it I've used because I didn't love it. Facial cleanser, I ended up throwing it out because I hated it. The moisturizer, I really haven't used. I mean, the packaging is, I love the packaging, But the products just, like, they just didn't do it for me. And I think skincare is such a selective thing that I'm not going to go to a celebrity skincare. I'm going to go to skincare that works for me.
To try to get on the skincare trend that really took the place of the more colourful makeup that was popular while Jeffree Star Cosmetics was coming up. This release,
I think Rare Beauty did such a good job at releasing makeup during a time where no one wanted to do extreme makeup, doing makeup that was like embrace your beauty and like light moisturized, tinted instead of like foundations and stuff like that, and like lighter colors, and they did a good job.
But mostly it just seemed like he was positioning himself for a comeback exactly when the time was right. He very publicly announced that he personally would be quitting YouTube, something bound to get him media attention, but in a more
I'm just reading the articles
and bringing it around the company. And then, just as buzz did start once again, he could jump on a trending topic, hopefully another scandal, which would help announce his return to social media on the pre-planned and pre-tested TikTok. This came when Michaela did a brand deal with L'Oreal to promote their telescope.
I honestly think without Michaela, he'd be a little bit fucked right now, because without that, people were not talking about him or cared about him. But then he came out on top as this, like, oh my god, he's came back to save us from Michaela.
Mascara, in which she was alleged to have worn a false lash at the end. This then brought into question the validity and the trustworthiness of the new wave of makeup influencers on TikTok as a whole, who, much like the YouTubers before them, have the potential to be paid to say exclusively positive things about a brand or product. It's that bribe money that I was talking about before. This was exactly the turmoil Jeffree needed to return to social media.
Yeah, he used it like crazy.
Having become known for his brutally honest and unswayed by sponsorship money brand, he became...
And any option to take down another woman, right, Jeff? We know he likes to do that.
And really the only person people could truly trust to get an unbiased opinion. So even though he as a person had been called out many times for racism and having several friendship scandals along with that, his return was welcomed due to his unshaken attitude towards getting in trouble. His followers knew that even if...
Thoughts on Eugenia supporting Jeffree and Shane? I mean, I don't care. She can do what she wants.
Something he said would get him into trouble, he didn't care. And he would still be excruciatingly honest in the way that these consumers needed. This, in a land where almost anyone can be bought off with sponsorship money, was a very well-prized and honestly needed quality. He filled the gap of an unquestionably honest influencer, a position extremely few at his level can boast. So, with this pretty warm reintroduction to social media through TikTok, from here, I'm expecting to see Star and his cosmetics company explode in popularity once again quite soon, proving something that both the academic journals I shared before and Naomi Cannibal talked about in a recent video that I really agree with, that the public discourse tends to only care about serious controversies like racism when it matches their own negative opinions on that person or brand, very easily forgiving those who they look favorably to. Which is exactly why shock marketing, if that is part of your brand and you don't take it too far, can be a really powerful marketing tool. A risky marketing tool, yes, but a very powerful and profit-inducing one, especially for such a low budget. The brand 100% still has a lot of value, and it is...
I feel like a good example of like shock marketing is like Madonna. You know what I mean? And Madonna can get like payoff from it. Like when she did the like religious themes and pissed off, the Christians and Catholics, it didn't matter because they promoted her to such a wide audience that a lot of people then discovered her. So it didn't affect her. Or when she did the like showing her ass, on stage, it pisses off a lot of people, but at the same time it's so much attention and her own fans aren't going to leave her for that. Like, who cares? So I think it's an interesting shock value and shock, like promotion and stuff is really interesting to think about.
He's planning to build his own store, which honestly may be open by the time this video comes out. The skin company is likely growing, as is the makeup once again, but...
I don't know if the skincare is growing. I don't really hear about it ever.
Easily the most interesting of these announcements, to me, is the one that they're building their own store. This specifically I find really interesting because...
But like, who the fuck in like Casper, Wyoming is like, oh, I need to go and buy a Jeffree Star palette. I'm gonna go to a fucking shop. Like, It doesn't make sense, especially in like today's day and
Currently,
age.
there is a gap in the market now that Morphe has closed and C Beauty is fallen for a young.
Yeah, but you can't compare Jeffree launching his own store to taking the place of Morphe, because people went to Morphe to buy a bunch of different brands, not be forced into one brand.
Sephora. There are few companies that have successfully diversified their portfolio in a healthy and profitable way in retail with long-term success. We have Korean companies like Olive Young seeing major growth.
Oh, you're
sure,
right,
but
you're right.
nothing much from America or the West in general to capitalize on this gap. If he does use this opportunity to expand into stocking other brands and perhaps funding the beginning of new brands, I could imagine that from here, Jeffree Star Cosmetics could again diversify their company portfolio and see success.
I think that would be such a good idea, like Jeffree Star Cosmetics turning into like a Sephora. I feel like that would be a great business plan.
In this new segment, if they can find brands that will risk working with such a controversial figure. Obviously, this is just my thoughts, but with his fulfillment center, connections to laboratories, and obvious talent for business, I think it could happen for the makeup company in a more sustainably healthy way than Morphe or Seed. I even found this concept store online from Hannah Kaiser Design, so it's very clear that there's demand for this. Obviously, it would be a huge financial risk for the company if they are looking into expanding. And that's why, to answer this question I got on my community tab, I don't think he will sell his company. This company has
Wow, I didn't know that that was what the topic of this video stemmed from. People talking about, was he going to sell his company?
Potential to restructure as a parent company or as a retail outlet. They could easily have Jeffree deified by the brand so that he becomes untouchable, like Chanel did for their cosmetics and their fashion lines, or just change the name so that his ear for scandal is washed off the larger company and have it grow to really become this generation's, Coty or Estee Lauder, whoever you want to put a name in there for. I know this video will have mixed reviews.
That's an interesting question. We'll leave it there. But do you people in the chat think that if Jeffree Star Cosmetics changed its name, but you still knew that it was Jeffree Star, that it had the potential to be as big as like Estee Lauder? Girl, I think if we're gonna say the makeup's good, I don't think it's that good. I mean, again, I don't like. If I'm just talking about the skincare, I feel that if Jeffree Star Cosmetics' name was changed, it would be even more unpopular. Like, that's all they have at this stage, is Jeffree Star. I mean, James Charles, his brand is called Painted. Took me a second to remember that there. We're going to see how an influencer brand that doesn't rely on the name of the influencer is going to do, because I think that James Charles would need, his name behind it to profit off of, but then James is being a little bit more tactical, that he has a lot of scandals that it would affect the brand. He obviously can learn from seeing Jeffree go through it. I just don't know who Jeffree's customer base is in today's day and age, other than like makeup collectors. Don't y'all have all the colors of whatever new palette he would ever make? You know what I mean? Well, anyway, that video was really interesting. Shout out to Underskin.